Let's go.
And in your face.
You bet we are in your face, and we're off the top rope, baby, right here on good old KQCK radio stations, heard exclusively on KQCK.com. How you doing, everybody? Brian Shank back with you here in the driver's seat for another edition of Off the Top Rope Radio. Great to be back here. This is a Sunday, believe it or not. We're jamming out on a Sunday. We're having a good time. Last Thursday, we had a pretty good show lined up with my buddy Frank Manzo from WrestleReaction.net, and we also had Jumping Jim Brunzell scheduled to come on and talk, but unfortunately, due to some technical difficulties, we had some problems. So we are live. We are here. We're back in the studios in good old KQCK, and I'm glad to be here, and I hope you guys are as well. My name is Brian Shank. I'm the host as always. Got a great show lined up for you. So much has been going on here in the wrestling world. TNA, WWE, some news that we heard a little bit about with Jeff Jarrett's promotion, Global Force Wrestling. We'll kind of talk about everything and anything that we can. And if you want to give us a call later on in the show after the interview with Jim Brunzell, we'd love to take some phone calls today. I'm rocking the fantastic shirt right here. If you guys are watching this live on the video screen, if you want to watch on the video screen, see what the radio station looks like and everything else, you can just click View Now or whatever it says there on the main menu, and you can check us out and listen to us and watch us at the same time. Got the fantastic shirt my good buddy Bobby Fulton gave me personally. This was a nice gift from him. I thank him very much for that. Tommy Rogers, I checked in with him earlier this week. He gave me a buzz to kind of check in and see what he's been up to, and glad to have those guys out there listening and being a part of our show like always. And let's get right to it. There's so much to discuss, and I'm glad to have him on board. He's my good friend from WrestleReaction.net. He's the one, the only, Frank Manzo. What's up, Frankie?
What's up, Brian? Pleasure to be on, man. How's it going?
Excellent, man. Glad you could join us. I apologize for last Thursday. We couldn't make it work, but everything is up and running. Everything's looking good. The hamster wheel is moving pretty tight. The HD looks great on the video screen if you guys are watching right now. Just got updated here a couple weeks ago to high definition, so hopefully you guys are out there watching us in 1080p and enjoying it and just really having a good time. And Frank, it's always a pleasure to have you, man. I know you've been very successful and very busy on WrestleReaction.net, a very fine wrestling news site to go to and get all the updates and listen to the podcasts that you do on Monday nights right after Raw. A lot of things are going on, man. Let's kick it right into high gear. I know you've got a lot of notes. What would you like to talk about first?
Well, let's go right to, as I would say, the beast in the room, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, SummerSlam, man. I mean, that is the hot thing that WWE is booking to us right now. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Battleground. A lot of people, including myself, didn't think it was a great pay-per-view, but they really were just getting these storylines along for the time being in order for them to culminate at what they would call the second biggest pay-per-view of the year for WWE. So we are pretty close to SummerSlam. We're looking at Sunday, August 17th. We're exactly actually 2 weeks away today.
That's correct.
And, a little interesting thing that a lot of people are complaining about as I, checked social media the past couple of days, Brock Lesnar and John Cena supposedly will both not be on WWE Monday Night Raw tomorrow night. And I don't, it's not the go-home show. I think they'll be okay with this. Obviously, if they have Paul Heyman, he can come out and do a great promo to keep this thing going. But, it's all about them getting there next week to send it off to the pay-per-view. And I loved their match in 2012 at Extreme Rules. I think it's going to be amazing to have these two go at it again on pay-per-view.
Without a doubt, and right now we thought about it, people are saying, why isn't Brock Lesnar more in the front picture, so to speak, and why hasn't he been on TV and whatnot? But, Brock Lesnar's contract is pretty cut and dry. I mean, he appears on some of the bigger pay-per-views. Once in a while, he'll come out on a Raw. He has, obligations to fill and whatnot, and that's the contract he signed, and that's the kind of commitment he made. A huge, huge thing in his wrestling career by defeating The Undertaker here at WrestleMania 30 in New Orleans. I know you were there live to see it. We were all there in that city that week. It was tremendous. And now he's back taking on John Cena for the heavyweight championship. A big hurdle that he made at WrestleMania, jumping over to defeat The Undertaker. Now, could he become the WWE champion? I kind of feel it would only make sense for him to go ahead and capitalize 2014 with a big exclamation point with him winning the title. I would love to see it. I don't think John Cena needs it. I think that right now he's the right man to hold it because obviously going into SummerSlam, you want your top guys to be there. And I think that they could really ride off the high that Brock Lesnar has created by defeating The Undertaker a few short months ago and going ahead and getting that heavyweight championship. What are your thoughts on that, Frank?
Yeah, well, it really was no better babyface head of the to go into SummerSlam with the title to face somebody like Brock Lesnar.
Mhm.
So obviously John Cena was winning that Money in the Bank 2 months ago in Boston. I happened to be there also. That was a great event.
Cool.
And I don't know why anybody else thought that it would be anybody else, but I knew it would be John Cena. Most people knew it would be John Cena. But I have to say, for as smart of wrestling guys that we are, guys in this who do the shows and know what they're talking about, there's very few of us that actually do know what we're talking about. I am not envious of the spot that they're in booking-wise right now. I agree with you, Brian. I think 100% Brock Lesnar needs to win the WWE Championship at SummerSlam. He has to beat John Cena for several reasons. Number one, John Cena beat him already at Extreme Rules since his return 2 years ago.
Yep.
He has to get one back from on that. But more importantly than that, Brian, how can the man who broke the streak after 21 consecutive victories go on to lose his very next match? That can't happen.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with after this, like I said, I think it's a given Lesnar walks out with the title. But what the hell do you do after that? How do you get this belt off of him without making him look weak? I mean, this is not just your typical heel that we're trying to build up.
Right.
This is Brock Lesnar. He needs to look amazing.
Yeah.
And after SummerSlam, the only way to make this guy look good by losing is to have him have an amazing match at Night of Champions, which he's going to defend the title at Night of Champions. It'll be interesting to see what or who it's against. But you have to have a Money in the Bank cash in at this point, maybe after the match this week. He doesn't look terrible losing the belt. But then here's the problem. Is Seth Rollins really ready to hold the WWE Championship? I'm not sure at this point.
They got to carry that one out like they did when Dolph Ziggler had the briefcase for all that time. I mean, a whole year went by before Dolph decided to cash in and eventually defeat Alberto Del Rio. And to me, it makes sense to let Seth Rollins keep building up the character that he is. And I would like to see him eventually kind of break away from the authority and become his own guy. Maybe even come up with a manager of some sorts. Maybe become a Paul Heyman guy. I'm not saying he has to do exactly that or just that, but I think Seth Rollins is going to need maybe a little something else to kind of elevate his career than where it is right now, because obviously all those months and years that he was wrestling with the Shield, they had each other's back, they were a threesome, and they were great. And I think that there's always some wrestlers out there who kind of need that rub from somebody else in some sense of the word. I think Seth Rollins is a tremendous wrestler, and I'm saying anybody. It could be a valet, it could be a manager. I mean, let's look at this. I compared this a few weeks ago with Doug on here about how much Seth Rollins reminds me of Shawn Michaels when Shawn Michaels broke away in 92 and decided to go on his own and become a great singles wrestler, one of probably the top 10 wrestlers in the world of all time, in my opinion. And this is very, very similar because Shawn went out, in a heel way. He came out, broke away from Marty Jannetty, and we can use if we want to, Dean Ambrose as the Jannetty part of it, if you will, chasing him and whatever else. Obviously a better gifted wrestler, I think, in a lot of ways in this current wrestling business. And I think that Seth Rollins eventually hooked up with Sherry. He had somebody there to kind of go along with him, help him cheat and everything else like that. I kind of see maybe thinking that Seth Rollins may need to do something like that. But I will say down the road, I think that within maybe a couple of years, I don't think necessarily within a year, but I think within a couple of years, we could easily see him as a heavyweight champion.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm with you. I'm not saying the guy can't do it. I'm not even saying it's not a year away. It could be that close. But right now, in this current situation, I think most people would both Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns probably ahead of him in that regard. And it just, like you said, Brian, I like him carrying the briefcase for a while. It's going to add to his character.
Yep.
These cash-ins are going to add to the drama of WWE. It's just that my line of thinking went there right away because there's not many options to screw Brock Lesnar out of the belt any other way come Night of Champions in September. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Again, you don't want Lesnar to look weak because he's going to have to do big business with somebody next year. And I'm just, they're in a pickle right now because, 100% they're not making him lose at SummerSlam. If John Cena goes over Brock Lesnar and keeps the belt, my jaw's going to drop like when the streak ended. I'm not believing that.
Your phone
definitely gets the title.
Hey, Frankie, your phone just kind of break up a little bit. It sounds like you're underwater at times. I don't know if you're in a bad spot or whatever, but it kind of goes in and out. So I didn't know if it was something on your end or.
No, same thing as always.
That sounds really good right there. Yeah, there was just a little bit like an underwater thing going on there. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead and finish your thought there.
That's okay. We're having nothing but technical difficulties this week on the Ropes Radio, huh?
Or off the top rope, for that matter.
Oh man, off the top rope. That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, you know how. Hey man, I'm getting married in 2 weeks. My head's all over the place.
Yeah, you'll get. Yeah, that's all right. Hey, I got news for you. In about 18 days, I celebrate 20 years, so my head is way gone, and I got a lot on you there, but it's all good, man. And you talked about your jaw dropping like the Undertaker situation when he lost a streak. I totally agree with you. I mean, Brock Lesnar has to win this, and while we're on the subject here, we kind of talked about that. Let's run over the matches that we have so far. And I want to break in to some of the WWE and TNA news because there's been a lot going on this week, and also we'll talk a little bit about Jesse Ventura if you want to as well. So let's run down these matches that are rumored so far and pretty much set in stone for SummerSlam on August 17th. And let's kind of go with that here. AJ Lee and Paige, we've been kind of seeing this back and forth for a while. We just saw it at the last pay-per-view. If this hopefully will be the blow-off match, so we can see AJ kind of expand now and move on. I think there's a lot of other deserving ladies wrestlers out there, divas, who I think are worthy of having some pay-per-view type of matches and some good stuff on pay-per-view. I mean, I don't think that there's any doubt in anybody's mind that AJ is going to continue to hold this championship and defeat Paige come August 17th. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think AJ probably keeps it open. I like the dynamic of what they're doing. Although, like my partner Joe said on Wrestle Reaction, how many times have they done the same storyline with, the girl being the close friend and admiring her and looking up to her and copying her and then ending up, just turning on her like Paige just did. We saw it with Trish and Mickey James years ago. And, listen, a lot of the Divas storyline do get recycled more often than anything else because they don't put the creative effort into it like they do with a lot of the men's storylines. And that's just because women's wrestling will never be as big as the men's. Obviously, they get one match a night. But I do like the fact that these two are going at it at SummerSlam. I mean, I don't know if I can make a better match for two women to go at it at SummerSlam. They're both phenomenal in the ring. They both have a great fan following. This was a smart thing to do by WWE. And like you said, this happens to be a very good roster of women that they have.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Bella Twins. Naomi can certainly wrestle. Alicia Fox is one of the most gorgeous divas they've ever had. Talia and Charlotte can put on a match anywhere, anytime. I mean, they really have taken huge steps in women's wrestling the past couple of years, and I like where they're going with it, and I think we're going to have quality matches for a while. But I'm definitely looking forward to Paige versus AJ. That's going to be good.
Cool. Now, we'll run through these kind of quickly here because I know we got a lot of news to talk about for the next 15 minutes, but I want to kind of hit on these and stuff, and we'll do this next week with Doug as well. But Bray Wyatt, Chris Jericho, we saw Jericho return the end of June, and basically out of nowhere, we saw Bray Wyatt come in the ring, attack him, and everything else. We saw Chris Jericho get a victory at the last pay-per-view against Bray Wyatt. I kind of like the way this thing is going here, but I also want to see maybe something eventually kind of break away, like this be the blow-off match as well. I'm not really digging the whole Bray Wyatt Chris Jericho feud. To me, it just doesn't seem to work. I feel like Jericho needs to work with somebody else who I think is maybe more along his character or more along his style. I just think that Bray Wyatt is a tremendous wrestler. There's no doubt about that. He's definitely great on the stick. But to me, I just for some reason, and I know Doug's a huge Bray Wyatt fan. I like Bray Wyatt. I know you're a huge Bray Wyatt fan as well, but I just hope that eventually we see maybe Bray Wyatt get this one go on. Where it's going to go from here, I don't know. Is it tit for tat? Is this where, Bray Wyatt gets his victory now on pay-per-view? If so, where does it go? Where does it culminate? I'm just not sure exactly what to think on this one.
Yeah, I think Bray Wyatt has to get this one. And, I think the problem with the feud so far, like you're not digging it completely, and I'm not either, is I just did not care for their battleground match for two guys that have put on such good matches with quite a few different people. Even Bray Wyatt, that with not much experience, but he's done very well. And obviously we know the long legacy of Chris Jericho.
Right.
I thought they could have done much better. But again, I think this is two guys who knew they were going to SummerSlam. They did not want to throw it all out there on the first time. They saved some stuff, and I do expect this to be a much, much better match. And like you said, Brian, it could definitely be the blow-off, but I definitely do see Bray Wyatt getting the victory in this one. And I think, like I said, we're going to see 100% better match.
Well said. Yeah, I wasn't really all that enthused in their match at Battleground, like you said as well. Now, there's a match here on the card that they thought, and a lot of people were talking about it. We even kind of brought it up to discussion as well a couple weeks ago, or maybe a month ago or so, whatever it was. But Roman Reigns, there was a lot of rumors about him taking on Triple H in this because it looked like when they set up when they set up Evolution in the ring with the Shield when they're still together. They went at it and everything else, and you saw Roman Reigns spear Triple H inside the ring. It kind of looked from that moment that was going to be the building block towards this big match at SummerSlam. But I'm not so sure now that they made the right decision by putting him up against Randy Orton, because to me, I just don't really buy it. Again, I just don't really buy this one too much. I saw some of the other matches they were doing. I heard some reports about some of the house shows they were doing. Not very impressed, but I will say this. I do like what they did on Raw last week, where they really showed Randy Orton as this killer, cunning, viper type of person that he can be and can turn on when he wants to, and it really worked. It made him look very strong as a heel. It made Roman Reigns look like he was getting his ass just beat to death and handed to him, and I think this is really going to play off well in SummerSlam, because now it's the big baby face versus the big heel, and I really do think this is where Roman Reigns kind of goes ahead, gets his really huge victory on a very mega pay-per-view level. I'm going with Roman Reigns on this one.
Yeah, I am too, and I think what you're talking about the past few weeks is the spice that they finally added to this feud.
Right.
Now there's legitimately a reason for these two to be beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
Roman Reigns has it out for Randy Orton. Randy Orton is now pissed that he lost his WWE Championship match at SummerSlam because of Roman Reigns, and he went off attacking him on Monday. It's exactly what you're talking about, and I thought it was great too. Now, as far as the reports from the live events go, it's kind of tricky to tell what we're going to end up seeing here, because a couple of months ago when Evolution and the Shield were feuding, we were getting nothing but amazing reports from one-on-one Roman Reigns versus Randy Orton matches, although a couple of weeks ago, maybe one of them was nursing an injury. Supposedly there was a lot of rest holds. The fans weren't happy. I think these two are going to be fine at SummerSlam. But here's the deal. We're not getting a Triple H Roman Reigns match right now because they just pushed that off a little bit. They figure we've got John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Yeah. We've got a couple other big matches to carry us. We've got this great Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins feud that's going on that I guarantee you we're going to get a match at SummerSlam with them also. So they figure we better save something for, let's say, Night of Champions. Hell in a Cell. Interestingly enough, Triple H right now is advertising for Hell in a Cell for that pay-per-view in October. So where does that leave? Maybe that's when Roman Reigns versus Triple H happens, because they pretty much have SummerSlam and Night of Champions set up. So we're not far off, Brian. They're just killing time in the meantime and saving something for the fall that the fans can really get into. I know I'll be going nuts when Roman Reigns fights Triple H. Those are two of my favorite guys.
Oh, without a doubt. And the thing is, I got to give WWE credit, is that they have really pushed things back a bit and really kind of held off. I mean, the Cesaro situation where it looked like he was going to become a mega baby face right after WrestleMania when he did the thing with Jack Swagger and broke away, but they've been pushing that off. And I think it's good that they're giving that a little bit of time. You got to get something to build. I mean, think about it. Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer back in the 80s, they had a 2-year feud. 2 years, okay? And you had stuff that really took time to build up in the 80s and the 90s with the WWF. I mean, they, at the time when they were the WWF, that they built up matches, 5-6 months out. I mean, Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, Paul Orndorff, Hulk Hogan. I mean, they built those feuds to where they had something to go on. And I think that them, by holding back a little bit and not blowing their wad, so to speak, on SummerSlam with Roman Reigns and Triple H and John Cena and Brock Lesnar, it does make sense to go ahead and push it to the next one. So we'll see. Hopefully that does happen. Now, moving on, Stephanie McMahon, we saw her return on Raw, and I kind of like this angle. I really like this segment. I thought it was pretty good. Stephanie doing the whole, there's just one thing you got to remember. Wham, hit Brie Bella. She flies off. They get back in the ring. They go at it. I'm looking forward to seeing Stephanie McMahon back inside the ring, see what she can do. I know she's been training hard for this. She's been really looking forward to getting back in the ring and having that one match after 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. I do like this. I like where they kept playing around where Bree said, I'll drop the charges. Well, if you're not going to do it, then I'm not going to drop the charges. Well, okay, if you get it, I'll drop the charges. No, I'm not going to drop. I mean, it was funny how they did that back and forth. There was a lot of comedy in this. It was very well done. It was a great way to end the show, and in a different way. I mean, this was totally something different than we've seen in the last, I'd say, probably 3, 4, 5 months on TV, with Stephanie McMahon now getting involved physically and doing something with this and announcing their match at SummerSlam. Where does this go? Because I'm thinking that somewhere down the road, this has to continue somewhere with Nikki Bella coming back. And I'm also wondering, do one of these two Bellas eventually turn heel? I'm just kind of scratching my head at this one.
The lot of people think maybe that Nikki might, now that she's been put through so much punishment because of what her sister did, and she can take that out on her sister.
Right.
Like, you didn't care about what they were doing to me while you were gone. And listen, I'm with you, Brian. I really like what they've been doing with this. It's so funny that two women can have a real feud with TV angles written out properly and everything.
Right.
In this day and age, they've really taken the time to do this correctly. And like Vince Russo said on his website, I think about 2 weeks back, there may be no bigger true heel in WWE today than Stephanie McMahon. I mean, she gets legitimate heat.
Mm-hmm.
She is a total biatch when she goes out there every time.
Yeah.
She does exactly what she's supposed to do,
Mm-hmm.
old school heel style. She's a great authority persona.
Yep.
She takes right after Daddy Vince, and I'm loving everything she does. I like looking at her. I don't know about you.
Oh, she's nice.
I just think everything that she's doing. I just think everything she's doing is great. I think everything her and Triple H do together is great. Triple H has been so money in everything he's done on Raw the past couple of weeks. They're filling the authority shoes so great, literally the authority. Mm-hmm. And I like where they're going with it. And I don't know if this is going to be long and drawn out between Brie and Stephanie. This might be the SummerSlam match and maybe just some skits and stuff afterwards. But I do think they did a very good job of it.
Let's spend about 60 seconds on this other match here, then we'll move on to some of the news. We've got about 7 minutes or so left to go in our segment here. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, they may have the Money in the Bank briefcase on the line for this one. What are your thoughts on this? Because I think Dean Ambrose could really use a big push right now on a pay-per-view level. I like it, but I also think that Seth Rollins, riding as high as he's at right now, I don't think it will happen.
Well, Seth got the win at Money in the Bank. There wasn't really a match at Battleground. I think Ambrose has to get the win here. I don't know if it's going to be for the briefcase. I don't know if they want to take it off of Rollins right away, because I am pretty sure that Ambrose will get the victory. But we'll see what happens there. Now, if Dean Ambrose does take the briefcase off of him, then I'm going to start thinking ahead a month towards Night of Champions when Brock Lesnar is going to be defending the title, and thinking now you have a babyface with the briefcase. Maybe that's the way you get the belt off Lesnar without making him look too bad. But before we even get there, I'll tell you right now, Rollins versus Ambrose is going to be fantastic. They're going to tear the roof off that place. This is a true 80s, 90s build, Brian. Like me and you used to, that great hatred grudge match feud.
Yep.
And they've had some of the best skits and stuff going on in the past couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to it.
I love how Dean Ambrose has been falling everywhere inside the ring and saying, I'm going to ruin your chances at this and everything else. And Seth Rollins playing that cowardly type of guy who's concerned and whatnot. I do love it. I think it has a really nice touch of old school to it, which, I enjoy very much. I'm an old school guy. So that to me is going to be a really nice way to go about it. So in the next 5 minutes or so that we have, let's kind of talk about some of the big news going on. WWE right now, it looks like they're going through a lot more cuts and whatnot from the executive side on down. We saw Ricardo Rodriguez be terminated. He wanted to wrestle anyway. They decided to put him on the Spanish announcing table. He's gone. What else have you heard from the Thursday meeting in regards to any more firings? I haven't really heard much else in regards to any talent or anybody on the higher up exec list. And how much trouble is the WWE in regards to their money? Because it also has a lot to do with some of these people who are saying, well, Vince McMahon promised this, we're getting this. There's only 600 and some odd thousand people subscribed to WWE Network. Should have been over 1 million by now. People are canceling their subscriptions if they paid on PayPal. What's going on here with the WWE, man? Give us a really good thing here in the next couple minutes.
I'm not as worried as most people are, and the business will last, Brian. We've seen ups and downs. We've seen business really, really bad in the mid-'90s. I know you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
During that.
Yeah.
But they will survive. They will go on. It'll be interesting to see, these legal actions that are being taken against them by the stock holders. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. But here's how I feel about the stock price and everything that's happened. The price that they lost, all the money that they lost, was mostly from a stock valuation that should have never, ever been that high. Over $30 was a joke.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Everybody who made money off of it, God bless them, they got a freebie, they got a gift handed to them, because it should have never happened. It was happening off of rumors that WWE was going to merge with AMC, going to sell their company. I mean, all of us who know the business for as long as we do, we know that's not going to happen. But the people on Wall Street, apparently, they know WWE, the McMahons in the wrestling business. They thought they knew better than us. And all of a sudden, the stock price is at $32 a share. It should have never gone there. It came back down. That's what I like to call the correction process in the stock market, which, has effect on a lot more things than wrestling. And when that happened, it looked bad for them. It definitely did. Now, as far as the network goes, here's the key problem. They're just doing business in the United States. I've been out of the States. I've been to my cousins' houses in Italy. They're huge wrestling fans. Canada, Australia, United Kingdom. These places are going to subscribe to wrestling. Do I think the casual fans are going to run and subscribe to it? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the casual fans are doing that here in the United States. But international is going to open up a lot more money for them. And I do think they're going to be fine. I don't think they ever expected, honestly, to funnel in a ton of money right away when the network opened and not take a hit. To do something this big, to change their business model like they did, it was going to take some kind of a hit. Mm-hmm. And as I don't know if you noticed, Brian, with the news lately, but the reports came out the other day, after all the months since WrestleMania of the talent hasn't been paid, they're worried they're going to get stiffed, right. Nobody might not even get a check. Well, guess what? The WrestleMania checks made it to the guys. They were all very pleased and happy, and the ball rolls on. So I think WWE is going to be fine. As soon as international business opens up, it's going to really, really help them. The network, as far as I'm concerned, is a steal for $10 a month.
Yeah.
And if they said to me tomorrow, we're going to have to charge you $20 a month, I would say, hell yes, in the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because guess what?
Yeah.
I was paying $55 a month before for a pay-per-view,
right.
for one show, for 3 hours.
Right.
I'm not going to pay $20 a month. Watch that and everything else I can for the rest of the 30 days.
Yeah.
I'm all in, and I think a lot of other people would be too.
Yep, you're right. We got about another minute or so here really quick. TNA, obviously, supposedly not getting renewed by Spike Network, but then there's been reports saying, hey, don't push the button yet. We are okay. We're still in talks with them. We're doing this. I don't look at Spike Network as really being somebody who really pushed and promoted TNA wrestling on their level. I just think that, the chips kind of fell on the wrong side of the fence here. I think they had a chance to really build TNA. However, I also think that TNA's product is actually pretty good. Now with Vince Russo out of the picture, that may be another factor because there's been talk and rumors and everything else, and that's what we do here. We talk about talk and rumors that supposedly they were being lied to, Spike Network, saying that Vince Russo was not part of the TNA roster or, employed by TNA. He actually was. That was a damper, and that made him leave. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this about the next minute that we have?
I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not they get it or not. I think TNA will go out of business if they don't. I don't know another network that would be so interested in this. I mean, here is another problem. Never mind the Vince Russo drama. That's a last-minute scapegoat. This would have happened with or without him anyway.
Right.
Spike looks at TNA. They may see a 1.0 in the ratings right now that they're guaranteed to get, but they might say to themselves, maybe we can fill that spot with something else. And who are the real stars there? Who are the people that are drawing people to watch this? There's no Hulk Hogan. There's no Ric Flair. There's no Sting anymore.
Yeah.
As far as Jeff Hardy and Bully Ray go, they're big names in the wrestling business, but they don't transcend out of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Nobody up the general street knows who these people are.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a problem for Spike. And honestly, Brian, I don't see a good thing for TNA if they don't get this deal.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, TNA has never made that effort to get their Hulk Hogan or their Goldberg or their Sting or their Flair or somebody like that, like you mentioned, on a national level. And that's something that really needs to be done. I like what TNA is offering in their product. I think it's very good at times. I think they could be tweaked a little bit here and there. I have some ideas in my head, of course, but you know what? That doesn't matter. Obviously, we're just talking about it. But you know what? Right on the dot, it's 3:30 here in Arizona, 5:30 out there in the Central Time, 6:30 by you on the East Coast. We're going to move on here, take a quick break, come back with Jumpin' Jim Brunzell. And Frank, I got to tell you, man, it was always good hearing from you, and I really appreciate you joining us today, man. You take good care of yourself, okay?
Brian, always a pleasure. Fans out there tomorrow night, right after Raw, Eastern Time, immediately after it goes off the air, go to WrestleReaction.net and watch my show live. We're going to review everything, and we always have the hottest in wrestling. Take care, Brian. Thank you.
Love it. Thanks, Frank. Take good care, man. All right, there you go. Frank Manzel, WrestleReaction.net. Go check out that fine website. It's one of the best ones out there, right along with WrestlingRumors.net. It's always a pleasure talking to my good buddy, Frank. We're going to be coming right back in a moment or two with Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, former Killer Bee, former High Flyer, right here on Off the Top Rope Radio.
Santan Motorsports, located in Queen Creek, specializes in off-road ATVs, dirt bikes, UTVs, accessories, side-by-sides, street bikes, and provides performance work. Santan Motorsports is your local dealership for off-road parts and accessories. They provide and pride themselves on excellent customer service and a staff that understands all aspects of the off-road business. Come in and browse our dealership and find those parts and accessories you've been looking for. Check our website, santanmotorsports.com, for monthly specials as well as used equipment. Santan Motorsports, your one-stop shop for sales, service, and knowledgeable staff. Located in Queen Creek on Power Road and Santan Boulevard, or call 480-988-0580. Santan Motorsports, we're here for you. Are you having plumbing or septic problems? No worries. Call Cartwright's Queen Creek Plumbing and Septic Service. Been in the Valley since 1996. Family owned and operated. Proudly serving East Valley and surrounding areas. With a full range of services from drain cleaning, septic tank pumping, general maintenance and repairs, inspections for the sale of your home. They provide excellent and courteous service for all your plumbing and septic needs. We're not satisfied till you are satisfied. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call today. Cartwright's Queen Creek Plumbing and Septic Service. Contact Denise at 480-987-8051. That's 480-987-8051.
Oh, yeah. Little streets of Philadelphia there, baby. Bruce Springsteen, the boss. Have to play that for my next guest. He's a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen. He's been to, I think, about 714 concerts, I do believe. We'll find out the exact number here in a moment. He's a good friend of mine, someone I love talking to because we just talk as friends, and it's always an honor to have him on the show. He's been all over the place, the AWA, the WWF, Florida wrestling, around the world, everywhere. There's been a wrestling ring. I'm sure my buddy's been there. He's jumping Jim Brunzell right here on Off the Top Rope Radio, live on this Sunday, August the 3rd, 2014. How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing great, Brian. Beautiful day here, and probably not as warm as it is in Phoenix, but it's about 87 here, and it's sort of the humidity's down, so it's a nice summer day for a change.
That's been our weather report.
How are you doing?
That's been our weather report with Jim Brunzell. Let's move on to the news. No, I love it, man. I'm doing great, man. I'm glad you guys are having some good weather out there because the Midwest, that's my home. You know, I'm born and raised in Northern Illinois, and it's always good to hear the people out there having some good weather, and that's important. So I'm glad to hear that. So anyway, I'm doing good, man. You know, last week we had a little bit of a difficulty with some technical problems. I apologize to you. I apologize to my friends out there who listen to the show every week, and my buddy Frank Manzo from WrestleReaction.net, who is supposed to be doing some news with us, and but we're glad to have you here, man. I'm happy you can be a part of the show. So what's been new in your life?
Pardon?
I said, what's been new in your life?
Oh, well, you know, the summer's moving by so fast, and like I had mentioned before, I was down in Florida visiting my mother-in-law, and then in the next couple of weeks here, I've been working on a book of my life in professional wrestling for about 4 years, and I've got a compilation of about 37 stories, and just all different things that happen that were all true and pretty hard to believe, but unless my eyes were deceiving me, it actually happened. So I changed the name of the guilty to protect the innocent.
Yeah, I bet you did. You know, you've shared some of those stories on the phone with us before, man. I can't wait to get this book. Tell us about it. Tell us what the name of it is and when it can be out and what we can expect and everything else.
Well, the tentative name is called Madlands, and it's true stories from the road as told by Jumpin' Jim Brunzell over the last 25 years.
He's a great guy.
So, it's just something, things that happened to me that stuck in my head. And I started doing this. Somebody told me that I told some stories at a party, and they said, geez, Jim, you should, talk into a recorder and get those down and then maybe do a book.
That's awesome.
So it always seemed that sometime at night I'd think of something, and I'd actually get up and just write one line, and then maybe a day or two later, I just sort of fill that in on the recorder and then get these stories. And it's not going to be a book with an axe to grind. Life's too short to do that. And then also, there's not going to be any sex, drugs, or rock and roll, so it probably won't sell. But they're all true stories, and I'm sure people will find them interesting.
We're talking to Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, my good buddy here. He's out in Minnesota where he lives, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the air. And I want to get maybe some of those stories. Maybe you can tell one later on here in the show, but I want to kind of run over a few things here because I had some people checking in with me today. Your old former tag team partner from the High Flyers, Greg Gagne, him and I touched base earlier. And I also talked with Brian Blair via text. He's out at the Mid-Atlantic Wrestling Fan Fest this weekend out there in North Carolina. So he checked in with me and he gave me a couple things to say. But before I do that, I was cleaning out the old garage the other day. I grabbed this big box full of wrestling stuff. There was magazines and autographs and keychains and all kinds of crap. And I pulled out 3 of these here that I decided to go on, and I got these from our good buddy Mick Karch, Slick Mick.
Oh yeah,
he was selling these because he was helping a young gentleman get through a serious illness, and he did such a great job by helping out. And I'd like to get Mick on the show one of these days to talk more about that and get the status of him. But I just found these, and I thought these were great here. These are like the old. I'm gonna put them on the camera here for people who are watching us on the video if they can see these. I don't know how good the light is, but basically what these are just official lineups of the matches and stuff like that. Las Vegas, Nevada, Thursday, September 8th, 1983, the Showboat Sports Pavilion, official lineup of matches. The main event that night was the Incredible Hulk Hogan from Venice Beach, California, taking on Mr. Saito. And you were actually on this card as well with Greg Gagne and yourself taking on Blackjack Lanza and Rebel Bill White. Yeah, wow. I mean, this is what 31 years ago almost here. What do you? I don't know. I can say, do you remember this match? Because that'd probably be impossible. But what are your thoughts on Blackjack? Yeah, no. But what are your thoughts on Blackjack Lanza?
When we used to go to Vegas, it was a real treat because more than a few guys like to gamble, and then the whole energy scene out there was so incredible. And what happened was we used to wrestle in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow.
And then if you weren't on the last match, you could catch a 10:30 flight to Vegas.
Oh, wow.
And then you'd gain an hour, so you'd land in Vegas at 11:30 or 10:30. Yeah. So everybody, we cut all the matches short so everybody could get on the doggone plane. And then we stayed, out at that place, which was sort of way the heck out in the, was not nearly close to the strip, but it was a great time, and it had a nice little auditorium pavilion, and then they had good food. They had a nice little pool, and the boys loved it. And then some of the real diehards, get in a cab and go to Caesars or wherever they wanted to go. But I just sort of planted my rear there and enjoyed it. And I remember, we had the venue was not that big. I think I want to say it maybe held 25 to 3,000 people.
Wow, that's not
big. But it was packed all the time. And then the owners loved it because all those people would stick around and gamble. So we had done the Thomas and Mack deal where the Running Rebels played, or where the Rebels, the college team played. And I remember we did that for TV one time with WWE, and it was packed, and it was just a huge venue. I don't know, it's probably 14,000, 15,000 for that. And it drew well, but they was with the WWE, and the other one was with Vern's AWA. So it worked out. Vegas was a great place to go to.
Right on. We're talking to Jumpin' Jim Brunzell right here on Off the Top Rope Radio this Sunday, August the 3rd, 2014, right here on KQCK Radio, heard exclusively worldwide on KQCK.com. And I'm going through these matches here. Now, this was kind of cool because you and Greg Gagne had great success as the High Flyers. Blackjack Lanza and Rebel Bill White. I got to be honest, I don't know a lot about Rebel Bill White. You want to tell me a bit more about this, gentleman?
Well, Bill White was actually sort of a fair, better than average worker. He was. I first met Bill White. I think he worked in Illinois and Indiana, and then I saw him down in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And he was a good hand, real reliable, and apparently he had gotten in touch with somebody at AWA and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in Vegas. I'm going to be in the vicinity. If you could book me, fine." So they wound up putting him with Jack Lanza just to throw in a tag match, which was good. And Jack Lanza was very easy to work with in the ring. He had very good timing, and of course Bobby Heenan made him in terms of the interviews, but Jack was way better than average in the ring. So the matches were good.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what.
It seems Brian. Go ahead. I was going to say the matches were always good in the AWA. The time that they got harder was when you had a lot of disgruntled guys in the WWE, and everybody had a position there, and then some guys didn't realize their position, required them, to work mid card and work with some people that maybe they didn't want to, and they took it too seriously, and consequently, the matches were like pulling teeth sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you talked about the matches because you guys wrestled, you and Greg, that is, as a tag team for at least 8-10 years, if I'm not mistaken, at least 8.
Well, it was almost 10. I left one year. I left in '79 to go down to North Carolina. I was just sort of tired of the tag team, and I thought, I'm going to get away from here. So I took my young family. I think my son was a year and a half, and my daughter was 2.5 years old.
Uh-huh.
And we went down to Charlotte and stayed for about 18 months.
Wow.
And Charlotte was a great area. They had great talent. God, they had Steamboat.
Oh, yeah.
Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligan and Snuka and Kenny Patera.
Don Kernoodle.
And, excuse me, they had a couple of people that were Johnny Weaver, who was, a big star down in North Carolina for a lot of years. Sure. And it was a great area. The Crockett's did a great job. George Scott was the booker down there. The only problem is you never had a day off. Wow. I think in 18 months I had 4 days off. In
18 months?
Yeah, and the 4 days by Christmas. Basically, they ran every single day, and they were nice because they were 80 miles, 100 miles, 150 miles. So you could drive them and then come home that night, sleep, and then get up with the family and have a normal life, and then leave again. Some of them were a little longer when you had Richmond, Virginia, and a couple of the other ones. But the problem was that George Scott wanted everybody to work all the time, so they would book when the territory was really popping. They would book 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday.
Jeez.
And talking, I don't know if you want me to tell you this story, but this was probably the worst finish that I had ever done. Do I have time? Or
absolutely. Yeah, you got plenty of time. Go ahead and do whatever you want, man. Okay. I love hearing you talk. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, this was George Scott, and I had actually won the Mid-Atlantic belt, heavyweight championship belt from Ken Patera. So we were working this little program with Khosrow, the Iron Sheik, Ziri, and me. And what happened, we were on TV, and somehow or other, the referee got distracted, and I went to Khosrow, and he just loaded, curled-up toe boot that was supposedly weighted. And he kicked it, and as I came at him, he kicked me in the head, boom, down I went, and he beat me 1, 2, 3. So I, in turn, the next TV, I wrestled him, and I wound up getting him outside with the sleeper hold, putting him out, getting disqualified, but I got his boot. So my whole premise was I was going to wrestle him in Norfolk, Virginia, and that was an afternoon shot. And the people in Norfolk didn't realize that I was wrestling the Sheik again that night in Charlotte at 7:30. So I think the matches started at 1 or 2, probably 1 o'clock. And here's the finish that Sandy Scott gave me. I was waiting around, and Sandy comes up and he says, "Do you know what the finish is?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Well, George wants you to do an hour Broadway."
Oh, jeez.
And I said, "What?" I said, "An hour Broadway." I said, "I'm the baby face. I've got the heels gimmick."
Yeah.
I said, that's going to kill me in Norfolk. I said, you might as well dig a hole in the middle of the ring and put me in and just say, here lies Jim Brunzell, whose career has been shortly ended right here. And we did this hour Broadway. I was so mad at George Scott. And he wound up firing me not too much longer after that because a couple matches I had with Kaz, and just something didn't work right. And Kaz went back and bellyached and blah, blah, blah. And then I refused to do another hour draw with him. So George said, Jim, I'm going to have to let you go. And I said, I understand. But to make a long story short, we had a pretty damn good match in Norfolk. And then that night we went 45 minutes through, and he ran out of the ring and got counted out. But it was, he couldn't have got the belt wouldn't have changed for some reason or other. But so I had this screwy boot that was about at least a half a size too big for me. And it was, the Iranian colors, and they had that curly toe on. I was running around the ring,
That's funny.
Flippity clop for about 4 weeks trying, and I still couldn't beat that son of a gun. So
that's
more
funny.
Power to him.
It's funny you bring up the iron. Go ahead.
Well, that was this story was told at the worst finish I ever had in my wrestling career. And, it just told me that George Scott had no plans for me in that, I couldn't win with heels gimmicks. So that's about as big as axe grinding this book will be.
That's awesome. I love that story, though, because it's interesting you brought up the Iron Sheik, Kaz, there, because, for a long period of time, and it's been no secret in the world of professional wrestling with the fans and the people alike, that Iron Sheik has always had some sort of grudge against your former tag team partner and a very good friend of mine and yours as well, B. Brian Blair. And it's been circulating throughout the world and everything else. I make him humble, I'll break his neck, blah, 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 that stuff. Then, I guess, out of nowhere, a year or so ago, Sheik said, I wasn't having a problem with the guy with the mustache. It was the other one. It was you. And I'm sure you heard about this. What are your thoughts and your reactions to this? And what is he talking about? Do you have heat from many years ago? Was it something that happened at your WrestleMania match? Was it something that happened in the WWE at the time? I mean, tell us what is on his mind. Why does he hate you? Jim? Hey, Jimmy, I can't hear you. You there, bud? Jim? Jimmy Brunzell, we're having a hard time here. You're not there. You're breaking up horribly. Can you hear us? No, no, it's really bad. It's breaking up really bad. Really bad. No, it's really, really bad. How about if I try calling you back? Maybe that might work. I don't know, but I can hear it's popping really bad. Can you hear us at all? Okay. I'm gonna try to call you right back here live on the air. Just hang up with me and I'll call you right back. Maybe there's a bad connection or something. Okay. All right. Hang on. I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. We're going to try to call Jim back right now. We obviously are having a problem there. So just give me 1 second here. We'll call him right back on the phone here and get him back on the line, because I definitely want to hear this whole thing about the Iron Sheik and everything, because there was always so much animosity going on. I want to hear his side of the story and whatever else. So hopefully we got a better connection. Let's try this again here. Let's see if we can get him on the phone here. Good old cell phones, man. Technology out there nowadays. It's just nothing fun there. So let's try it. Jimmy, you there, bud? Jim Brunzell. Okay, we're going to take a little short break. We're going to come back and we're going to see about getting him back on the air here, and we'll do what we can to make it happen. So don't go away. We're coming right back.
Another day. Just believe. Another day. Just breathe.
Ami Hazard here. Catch the buzz on the Random Affairs Show every other Sunday, discussing random topics on health, fashion, music, art, and life with local and national guests. Check the calendar on KQCKLive.com for dates.
Just believe.
Tired of constantly letting your dog outside? Give yourself and your dog the freedom of a pet door from More Pet Supplies. They work with customers
Hey, it's
to
me.
provide
It
one-on-one
was like you were doing-
guidance so that you
like
receive
that. I
the
just
best
couldn't understand a
dog
word you
door
were
for
saying.
your
I don't know if it was
situation
like a bad
and
sell
budget.
or what, but
They will
I hear
even
you just
guide
fine
your
now.
product
Can you keep
selection
talking
and
here? Let me
proper
see how you sound.
sizing and address installation concerns. No other company offers this level of pet door knowledge. More Pet Supplies has been the industry leader in pet doors and premium pet products since 1996. Whether you need a pet door for installation through walls, doors, French doors, sliding glass doors, or through glass models, no one offers more choices. More Pet Supplies is also...
All right, we're back here at Off the Top Rope Radio. Brian Shank with you here. We're going to bring Jimmy back on the phone. Jim Brunzell, you there, my friend?
Yes, I am.
There we go. We can hear you just fine now. There must have just been a bad cell connection or something. I don't know, but let's pick up where we left off because I was asking you about the whole thing with the Iron Sheik. You know, he was all these years saying stuff about Brian Blair, and then I guess eventually he came out and said it was the other guy, meaning you. I mean, can you explain this? Was there some heat there? Was there something during the match at WrestleMania? I mean, what's going on?
Well, I think it all stems back to a very long time ago. I played a joke on Cosgrove.
Okay.
And Cosgrove was pretty naive, and a lot of guys took advantage of his naivete. But there was a rumor spread it around the boys in the WWE that there was a new wrestler who was working in the WWE, and he was gay.
Oh.
And Cosgrove says, I was talking and talking with Brian and Paul Orndorff, and then all of a sudden Cosgrove came and we sort of shushed. Cosgrove says, Jim, you must tell me. What are you talking about? And I said, Cos, I said, I really can't tell you. We don't know if it's true or what. He said, you must tell me. I must know what's going on. So I said, there's a rumor that there's one of the new boys, one of the new wrestlers in the WWE is gay. He says, no. He says, who is it? And I says, geez, guys, I really don't want to tell you because I don't know. But he says, you must tell me. Who is it? I said, you promise you won't tell anybody? And he says, I won't. You tell me. So I said, okay, I'm going to whisper it in his ear. And then as I whispered it in his ear, I kissed him on the cheek. And he turned around and looked at me. And he says, Jim, who's the gay wrestler in the WWE?
Oh, no. So you were trying to obviously show him that you were being the one yourself by kissing him on the cheek. He misunderstood you. Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, and he just didn't get it, but it was funny. He got a little pissed at me, though, because everybody laughed. Everybody in the locker laughed. And then, but that's another story. There's a couple stories that are sort of borderline, but it was funny.
So he basically confused you with Brian Blair for all those years because Brian didn't do anything to him, right?
I have no idea. I don't think so. I mean, it was hard working with those two. We had good matches, and mainly because Nikolai and the Sheik were over because they were sort of like the Three Stooges, being the Two Stooges in the ring, because there was not very much continuity. They did the Russian gimmick, and then they did the Iraqi gimmick or Iran gimmick. Yeah. And then it got heat, and no matter what they did, I mean, it was sort of comical, some of the matches that we had with them, and then the big match we had in WrestleMania. Yeah. Again, they give you a finish where Hacksaw Jim Duggan comes in with his 2x4, and it was an introduction of him as a character in the WWE, and at the same time, we get disqualified, and then we're supposed to be happy that he came into the ring.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get that either. I remember watching.
I shook my head. I said, "Holy Christ!" I said, they're testing us for smoking pot. Some of those bookers should have been tested.
Well, hey, tell me one thing, because I was talking with we got a couple more stories we got to go with here, but I was talking to the honky tonk man, Wayne Ferris, back in Vegas a couple of years ago. We were sitting down having a beer together, and we were just shooting the shit about stuff. And he says, "Boy, I'll tell you what, I remember that one time when Vince started making us all wear his sports jackets around, and frickin' Hercules wore this damn jacket, looked like the moss were eating it for a month and a half, and it was all torn and stained and raggedy." What do you remember about Hercules', God rest his soul, Ray Fernandez? What do you remember about his jacket, his attire back in those days?
Well, he probably wore an old silk jacket that was pretty tattered, and then he probably wore it with a tank top and sweatpants with tennis shoes. He wanted to dress up for the road. But Ray was a wonderful guy. I loved him. God, he was just a great guy.
Yeah.
And a great talent in the ring, and just a fun person. Sort of a guy that was capable of, flying off the handle pretty quick. I remember I worked with the Barbarian.
Yeah.
John the Barbarian in Salt Lake City, and he kicked me in the chin, and it flipped me around, and I hit my head on the mat, and I didn't know where I was. I had a third-degree concussion.
Oh, jeez.
So I didn't. The next day we're in L.A., so I'm dizzy in a bath, and I didn't eat anything, and because I felt like I was going to puke. So I was working with Hercules that night, and the doctor told me, he says, "There's no way I can let you work, Jim." He says, you could hurt yourself real bad. And I can't remember who the agent was. I think the agent might have been Jay Strongbow. And he says, "Doc, we don't have a substitute. Jim's got to go in the ring." So he says, "Well, the only way I'll let Jim work in the ring tonight is if his opponent tells me he's not going to hit him in the head." So they got Ray Hernandez over, and this doc says, "Now listen, Jim's got a concussion. You can't slam him, you can't kick him in the head, and you can't throw him in the turn post or nothing. Do you agree?" And Ray says, "Sure." We had a hell of a match, and it actually I didn't miss. It took me about 4 or 5 days to feel normal, but I didn't miss one shot.
I'll be damned.
And I had what they call a third-degree concussion, and I probably had 3 or 4 of those, counting my football college days, high school, and then the wrestling. So
wow, that's funny.
So one of these days when you call me and I go babbling on about something, you'll see it must have been that 4th concussion.
Well, I just hope one day when I call you don't say, "Brian who?" That's the part I'm worried about. But no, you'll always remember me, right, Jim? Come on, the guy that is always here and there. Yeah. Now, I got 2 more stories I got to touch on because these came from Brian Blair and Greg Gagne. So which one do you want me to hit first? You just tell me the name and I'll hit on them.
Either one, Greg.
Oh, okay, Greg. Here we go. Greg from the High Flyers, of course. He said, "Make sure you ask Jimmy about Bobby Heenan and Big Red in Chicago."
Oh boy. Well, this is the only off-color story in my book. I mean, really off-color, but this is so unbelievable. It was in 1973, and we had just started, and we were driving to Chicago, and we were wrestling there at the amphitheater, which is in South Chicago. It's a real tough town. And, and the people could boo baby faces and applaud the heels. So I had a good match. I think I worked with Stan Kowalski or something, and he gave me a good match, and, I felt pretty good. So we stayed at a trucker's hotel called the Air Host. And it was over by the airport. It was by O'Hara. It was sort of off the freeway there, but it was a great little trucker's motel, but it had a bar and it had a piano in there, and then it also had a doggone grill, a flame burger type grill, so you could eat cheeseburgers, up until 2:00.
Sure.
And so we went there, had a couple beers. It was almost closing time, and Larry Henning and I, we were sharing a room. So we leave the bar. It's about 2:00, and we walk down this hallway, go into our room, and all of a sudden we saw this one door that was open, and we could hear noise in there. So by the time we got to the door, Larry Henning goes to stick his head in the door, and when he did, Bobby Heenan and this wrestling groupie by the name of Big Red. They were both naked, and Bobby was airplane spinning her. And they were both laughing so hard, she lost her control, and she urinated, and it hit a sprinkler, and it hit Larry Hayne right across the forehead, coming right down around the nose. And honest to God, he looked in, and he got hit by the urine. He looked back at me, and he says, "Do you believe that?" And I says, "No." And meanwhile, Bobby Heenan was laughing so hard, and they were both hammered, him and Big Red. He drops Big Red on the floor, and Larry says, "Jesus," he says, "I can't believe that." And here I'm 22, 23, out of college, not really hip to everything that happens in the world. And all of a sudden you see in an open motel room a guy airplane spinning a girl who winds up peeing across the room and hitting your friend in the forehead.
Oh my God. When he sent me that, go ahead, please.
So the next day we're checking out, and I'm at the front desk, and here's Big Red sitting there, and she had been crying all night after this, and she had a lot of mascara on. She looked like Alice Cooper. Her mascara was down to almost by her jaw, and she said to me, "I am so mortified, Jimmy." And I didn't know who she was, but she called me Jimmy, and I looked at her and I said, "Larry Henning says things like this happen all the time." He says, "Well, don't worry about it." That's what I said to her.
That's great stuff, man. Yeah, I didn't know when Greg sent me that text, I didn't know who Big Red was. I thought it was a guy wrestler, Big Red, but then you told me obviously it was a groupie and everything else, and that's that's a great story. Okay, we got a little bit more time here. Let's move on to what Brian said. Brian said to ask you, and it's a story that's well known in the wrestling world, but he said make sure to ask him about when Ken Patera threw the rock through McDonald's window. I guess maybe you possibly were there or had something to do with this or whatever, but he just said
no. I'll tell you what happened. I was in another town, and they were in Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is a little suburb of Milwaukee.
Yep, I know it well.
And what had happened, him and Saito had gotten the beer after the match and blah, 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 and they drive through McDonald's, and they were hungry, and they'd already had it, I don't know, 6-pack of beer in them, and they wanted to order hamburgers, and they refused them. They said, "Sorry, we're closed." So they dumped these hamburgers that they had in the grill. They said they were old and they threw them away. So Ken walks outside and gets a great big boulder and throws it through the damn window. 33-pound boulder, throws it through the window. They take off out of there. Well, they report it to the police, and here's what happened. Saito and Kenny were sharing a room together, and the sheriffs came in, and Saito opened to crack the door, and he said, "Who's there?" And they said something, so he cracked the door, and as soon as he cracked the door, they kicked the door in, and then they sprayed him with mace in the face, and then all hell broke loose. And there was about 4 or 5 cops there, and what had happened was this one, I think she was a female sheriff, jumped on the back of Saito, and his eyes were blind, and he didn't know it was a woman. He grabbed her by the head and ran her into the wall.
Oh, jeez.
And her eyes became fixed inward.
Oh, my God.
Needless to say, they both were arrested for assaulting police officers, and I think they both did 2.5 years in prison in Wisconsin.
Wow. Yeah, we knew about the story, obviously. Yeah,
and it cost Ken a lot of money. It actually cost him really a major portion of his prime time, availability to make money. And then, the fact is that when you do something that blatant, it's going to have consequences. And I think it played out for both of them. And I think Saito wound up had to go back to Japan, and there was like a $700,000 civil suit, and I can't remember. This was under Vern Gagne's. It was in the AWA, so
wow.
It was, just bad thing all the way around. I think the only good thing about it was that Ken was able to get his master's in the prison. So he got his master's degree.
We had Ken on the show a couple of times, and boy, he's a hoot, man. I'll tell you, he
Is
really.
he something or what? You never
Oh.
know what he's going to say. You know, I always call him affectionately the last angry man. He admits to being a racist and a bigot and a sexist. So, and you know, you just know where you stand with him because he's capable of anything. And I actually saved a couple of voicemails that he gave me.
Oh yeah.
And a couple times he had left a couple unsavory ones, and a couple times he had been under the influence of alcohol. And then he told me there was a big jackrabbit outside, 8'6", and he started laughing. He says, "I think I'll call the cops," and then he hung up.
That sounds like Ken. That definitely sounds like Ken. All right, we got about another couple, 3-4 minutes here, but I just want to do something here. I'm going to go back. You've been all over the place in wrestling, the AWA, WWE, and stuff like that. I'm just going to give you a few names here. I'm going to pick out 5 names randomly that I got here on this paper, and I just want I'll give you 1 or 2 words, 1 or 2 word reaction to that person, okay?
Okay.
Nick Bockwinkel. Superlative. I like that. There you go. Bring it into that $5 word there. I like it. Okay, here we go. Let's go with another one here. How about Rick Martel?
Very talented.
Very talented. There's the 2 words. Very good. That's why I want to give you because you wanted to use maybe like an adjective. So there you go. Very talented. I like that one. Okay. How about Bobby Duncombe?
Nice guy.
Cool. Like it. Oh, here we go. This one I really got to throw out there for you. Here we go. Dynamite Kid.
Let me see. Unpredictable.
I was thinking maybe something else was going to come out of your mouth in that one, but unpredictable is a pretty good one there. All right, how about Jacques Rougeau?
Let's see. I'll say spoiled.
Spoiled. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. All right. And one more for you here. We just talked to him it was 2 weekends ago. Big fan fest they had out here in Tucson and Phoenix, and I really enjoyed my time with him. Bret the Hitman Hart.
Let's see. Believable.
Believable. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Very cognitive thinking and words you chose there. I like that, man. You're really using the old.
Well, I haven't had any beer yet. I've gone to this party and they've had beer and wine and Mary says, "You better not drink if you're going to go on the radio." And I said, "Honey, I won't."
Oh, I appreciate that. Now, as soon as we hang up, Jim's going to be like, "Where's the beer, damn it? Where's the keg?" I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I got some beer.
Bud Light.
I got some beers waiting for me at home myself. So we're going to end this here and we're going to go home and do some cooking out on the grill as well. But, I really do appreciate taking the time out from your party like that. It was great hearing you. And, every time you come on the air, man, on the show, it's always good to hear your voice and your upbeatness. And, I like how you say, I don't really have, very vulgar negative things to say. I mean, you've been very successful in this wrestling business. You've done very well for yourself here after wrestling, which is a great thing to see. And I wish you so much luck and good fortune on this book. And when this book is done, you better call me up and you better tell me that it's ready to go because I want to have you back on the show then. I want to have it in my hands so I can put it up there. I want to put words on the screen and everything to make sure that Jim Brunzell's book is known and when it's ready to go, okay?
Brian, you'll be the 21st person that gets it because I had one. Well, actually, you'll get the 21st book. I had one of my friend's college teammates. He wants the first 20 books.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll take 21.
That was nice.
Yeah, I'll take 21.
I told him all I can afford is 25, so he'll be able to get the first 20.
I love it, man. I love it.
Don't worry, you'll get your book.
Yeah, I don't even mind buying one, but if you want to, gift one,
well, good.
If you want to gift one to me, I
look forward to it.
Cool.
Brian, I look forward to it, and hopefully it'll be here in the next couple months, and we'll be able to talk about it on air.
Please do. Yeah, let me know right away, man, because I definitely want to get that out there and help you sell them if we can and just really talk about it. And I think this is going to be great because every time you tell a story about some of the boys and stuff and things, it's like you're really there, like you're actually following along in your brain, which is a great thing. So listen, go enjoy your party. Have a good time. Have a beer on me, buddy, and we'll definitely talk soon, okay?
Very good, Brian. Thanks.
Thanks,
Have a
Jim.
good week.
You too, bud. Take good care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. There you go. Jim Brunzell, good friend of mine and somebody who is always just a great person to have on the air. I mean, he's just tremendous to talk to. So many great stories. He's been so many places and done so many things, and he's had some really good matches inside the ring. I mean, he could deliver a drop kick as good as anybody in this business, and I'll tell you, it's always a pleasure to have him on the air here and whatnot. So this kind of ends the Sunday edition of Off the Top Rope Radio for today, August the 3rd, 2014. We will be back. A quick programming note. We'll be back Thursday, like our usual slot. However, we're going to have to tweak it just a little bit. We're actually going to start the show at 2:30 Pacific time, which is 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern. Okay, so if you can circle that on your calendar or tell people or whatever else, don't forget this coming Thursday, we will start our show. I think that's August 7th. That'll be on at 2:30 my time here, Pacific. 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern. And for all those who follow us out there on the different outlets and everything else, we'll definitely have that out there. And we have a good guest too. We're going to talk more about things that are going on here in WWE, get closer to SummerSlam, talk about some more stuff, what's happening with TNA, kind of see what people have to say about that as well and everything else. So we want to thank Mr. Frank Manzo from WrestleReaction.net, a great website. I recommend you going and checking that out. And as usual, check out WrestlingRumors.net from Doug McDonald, my usual guest every week here on Off the Top Rope Radio. And we welcome you to send us emails at Brian, BRIAN, at KQCKradio.com. Let us know what's going on. If you have anything you want to talk about or anything you want to suggest for the show or whatever, we always welcome those. And we will be back here, like I said, next Thursday, 2 o'clock Pacific, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on good old KQCK, heard exclusively worldwide on KQCK.com. Check out our website, everybody. There's some great stuff on there, a chance to win prizes and everything else. Some awesome music 24/7. You can always tune into KQCK and hear some of the great songs. People like Dire Straits and Toto and Poison and Chicago, Great White, Bruce Springsteen, you name them, they're most likely on KQCK Radio. So we got to get out of here. Again, thank you to my good buddy Frank Manzo. Thank you to Jumpin' Jim Brunzell for all the great stories and stuff that he had to say here on Off the Top Rope Radio. We'll see you next time, and we'll definitely see you at the matches. Thank you once again, wrestling fans, for listening to today's show. We would love to hear from you away from the airwaves, so we invite you to like our Facebook page at Off the Top Rope Radio. And any emails you want to send, please send them directly to me at Brian, BRIAN, at KQCKradio.com. We'll talk to you next week right here on KQCK Radio, USA, Costa Rica.